tell you a little bit of something about the country. All right, one critical group of undecided voters, black women. And they say a vote for Biden is not guaranteed.
I am totally undecided. I'd write your name in at this point.
Does the presence of Kamala Harris on the Democratic ticket sway you at all?
Not at all. I don't know who said she had our vote. She does not. We were supposed to grab onto Kamala with the black girl magic, but that didn't happen because she didn't right our wrongs.
Like, I hold officials accountable. I don't care what color you are.
With just 10 days until Election Day, are these women a snapshot of voters in the black community? Joining us now with more insight is Advisory Board Member for Black Voices for Trump, Stacy Washington. Stacy, thank you so much for being here. So answer that question. Is this a preview of how, blacks across America might be viewing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
I think it is. If you look at what she said, it's something that we've been talking about on the right for years,
yes.
Decades, really. We've said so many times that you have to ask a politician what they plan to do when they're in office, and then you have to hold them accountable afterwards. And so what she's speaking of is Kamala Harris has had some pretty interesting issues with jailing people for minor marijuana offenses and things when she was working in California before she was a senator. And the same thing with Joe Biden with his 94 crime bill. So black voters, women voters, voters, period, want someone who's going to give them, of course, a message of hope, but also concrete plans for what they're going to do if they're elected. And then they want to see them do something. The only candidate who's done that is Donald Trump.
Yeah, and when you hear one side say, if you vote for Trump, you ain't black, I mean, there's a level of taking that vote for granted that people will eventually reject. I got to get, you mentioned the record of the president, which doesn't get a lot of mention anywhere other than here, especially when it pertains to blacks and Hispanics and what he's really focused on in those communities. Except if you did turn the channel for a couple of seconds recently, Van Jones, who has a tendency to say things that are inconvenient for the left, even though he is on the left, inconvenient truths, here's a portion of what he said, and I'll get your reaction.
Trump, and I get beat up by liberals every time I say this, I'm going to keep saying it. He has done good stuff for the black community, opportunity zone stuff, black college stuff. I work with him on criminal justice stuff. I saw Donald Trump have African-American people formerly incarcerated in the White House, embraced them, treated them well. There's a side to Donald Trump that I think he does not get enough credit for.
Oops. So do you think that message has gotten through to enough people in the black community that it will translate on Election Day?
Well, Pete, after the debate, there was a snap poll that showed 41%, it was Rasmussen, 41% of blacks support the president. Now, what will we see on Election Day? Only time will tell. But I think there is something of a kind of a churn or attraction that's been created by President Trump, where he started working at the very beginning. He came down the escalator. He was speaking to everyone. And he has a lot of really fantastic supporters like Herschel Walker, who's known him for 37 years, who are putting truth to the lie that he's some kind of racist. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, it's the policies. You know what speaks to me is not getting to meet him at the White House. It's watching him methodically address issues that the black community has been suffering under for decades. And Democrats just refuse to acknowledge their part in passing those systemic ills on and their refusal to address them. Donald Trump just looks at it like a businessman and says, how can we fix this? And then he'll bring anyone in, including Van Jones, a chief critic of his, to make things happen. I hope voters are seeing that and that they're going to vote accordingly coming up here in about 10 days.
Yeah, predictably, a lot of liberals are calling for Van Jones to be fired. Of course, if you hear something you don't like, you must try to suppress it immediately. And I love what the president says when he says success brings us together. And I think a lot of people resonate with that as well, regardless of their color and background. Stacy Washington, thank you so much for being here this morning. We appreciate it.